Hello, it's Sheila with Creative Aging again. And I know everybody's ready for spring. So we're sick of the snow and the cold. And so let's do some spring flowers. We are going to work really soft today. It's not going to be like heavy detail. It's going to be more of like a light, kind of faded wash. I want you to focus more on the composition and the colors and the shapes versus than the details. So I want you to figure out the balance of your bouquet in your vase. Figure out like if you want more pink and like if it's too, just like if you go and buy flowers, the florist, has their own art form and they are balancing colors within the flowers to figure out what's more visually pleasing. So I want you to do that with this project. So I'm doing very easy shapes so you can really just think about, what you want to do for colors. And we're not drawing much out today. I want you to just draw the vase just so you have kind of a reference point. And of course you need your watercolor paints. You need actually I'm going to go ahead and get the same size. You can use a square sheet of paper or you can use a small sheet of paper. It's totally up to you. I'll go ahead and I have this little pad of square paper. So I'll go ahead and use that just so it's the exact same. And first step is to just draw general outline of your vase. Figure out the composition, where it's going to go. You don't want your vase to be here because then your flowers are going to be off the page. So let's go ahead and draw it kind of close to the bottom. And of course you have an eraser, so you do not have to make this perfect. If you want to bring out your ruler and measure from the edges, you can. Totally up to you, but because these flowers are just kind of soft and loose, you really don't need to be that precise. It's going to add to the look of the whole project if you don't try to have perfect lines. All right, and we're going to cover a lot of this up anyway, so you're not going to see the drawing. So that's all I'm going to do for the drawing. Go ahead and get a medium and a small brush in your water. So these are the brushes. I'm going to start with this medium one. So I've got 2 cups of water back there. And I'm going to go ahead and put this one up here so you can see it. See if you can see both. See what I'm doing. Figure out my framing. There we go. Let's go ahead and work on the water first. So I want you to just take that light blue. We're going to add more colors later. So just go ahead and do like a wash. And the one good thing is since we're working in watercolor, it should be easy to make this look like actual water. So we're gonna let the medium work for us today. We want all these flowers to look like they were made with water. Some of the projects, I feel like they don't show off the water streaks enough. And so that's another thing that'd be fun for today. Okay, so I'm going up, back and forth just to give it some direction. And then later we're gonna add more colors. If you wanted, you could add the colors now. I mean, it's up to you. I'll add a little pink. I want a little pink in the water, so go over here. Just a little bit. It's very subtle. That's not subtle. So I just did it really dark right there. So you can blot that away or you could spread it around. And I'm going to spread it around. Okay. So we can always come back to that later if you wanted to add a little water right here just to make these not so, just to fade it. There we go. That's better. All right, let that dry. Let's move to our first flower. Now I don't want to do the flower right here because this is still wet. You will get your orange back right, and it's gonna drip right into your vase. So we want this to dry by itself. So I suggest you work on flowers kind of out here. So start figuring out the, where you want your colors placed. Of course, as always, change it to whatever you'd like. I'm gonna focus on the flowers first and then do green later. And if you decide that that's too bright to start, then go ahead and dab it. So use your paper towel and you can dab it. So I'm gonna use the same, I don't want it to be that bright. So I'm gonna use the same brush and just do some more up here. And as you can see, I am not doing perfect flowers. I'm doing this on purpose so that people won't freak out and worry too much about the shape, because I want you to focus on where you're placing the colors. Let's switch the color and maybe use some light orange, which is try to get all this stuff in the frame. Here you go. I'm gonna use this light orange and maybe do the same thing kind of up here. And then switch to some bright yellow. And we're gonna come back and do more details. So, this is, as always, kind of lots of layers of color. So I'm just adding little bits of yellow right in there. So I'm gonna switch again. I'm gonna do some bright red. It's right here. And if you want to switch to your small brush now, you can, or you can continue using this, and then we use the small brush for just to bring out edges a little more later. One right here. And I'm gonna dot some red just in the center here, and I'm gonna let the color kind of move itself, and I'm gonna do the same thing here. So I'm just gonna add some little dots, and then I'm gonna put more color on that in a little bit. So now see if this is dry, and it is. So now you might wanna work on the flower right above the vase. And you can either we could switch the color. Instead of an orange, we could do a red, or let's switch to this red orange right here. Actually, no, I'm gonna do this one. So I did start with yellow on the other one. I'm gonna try this out. All right, so here's the center, the flower. This one's bigger, so I'm just gonna kind of drawing an outline with my color. Okay, now fill it in. And if you want to switch colors and you want to use a little yellow, you can do that. And that is, see how much water just got on that brush? You can let that dry or you can dot it away now if you just want to play safe. So that's quite a bit. I'm gonna make sure that that much water is not on my brush again. So use my paper towel and just check. I want to be more careful with this one because you don't want all of this to run into your vase, because you can see we're already getting some greens. So I just mixed a green. So I'm going to dot some of that away again. So I'm taking away the color, and then I'm going to add more red. I'm going to actually add more red through the whole thing. This is that orange red. Okay, let's let that dry. And start working on maybe adding red and some of the pinks. If you got some shapes that you don't like or you want to add more, then do that. Let's work on this one and figure out what color you want. Actually, I'm going to do the pink behind it first. So I want this, I just want like a big pink flower to be kind of peeking through. Now I'm trying to keep these shapes simple for people that are a little intimidated by watercolor. If you have more experience, please take a look at a picture online and find a bouquet of flowers that you actually want to practice. And you might want to sketch it out and really play with the shapes and colors a little more. This is just something to get you started. And I don't want people that are beginners to focus too much on the drawing. I want them to think about composition of colors. So please just kind of make this your own. And you kind of have to play with this until you like what you see. To be totally honest, this is not my favorite project. I threw away the one I just did. So this kind of style is not my natural way of doing things. So I feel your pain. If anybody is more of a realistic artist, then this might be a little tricky because you're kind of keeping the shapes loose, and it can be difficult for those of you that are used to more detail and more realistic. So I'm trying to do something a little different. I'm going to add a little purple right here. So see, I'm just kind of going through and I'm figuring out what I like and don't like, and then just adding a little extra color. Right here, maybe I'll add a little sort of in the middle. So you might want to, just add darks here and there. This is always layers. I'm adding dots. Let me show you up close kind of how it's looking. Okay, now let's see if that one's dry. So let's go ahead and use the tiny brush. I'm switching brushes and I'm going to use more yellow. So I want less water because I want there to be a lot of more control over some of these details. So make sure, use your paper towel. Hopefully yours is cleaner than mine. You can tell I've done this. This is the second video I've done of this. It's the first time I just couldn't. I did my whole video for like 35 minutes and I just did not like it. So this is me starting over, and I forgot to get a new paper towel. So I'm using this one. So hopefully yours is cleaner. All right, let's do some yellow behind this because I don't want this to be like a perfect round shape. So I'm moving my brush and I'm just and then I want more yellow back here. And let's do some yellow back behind these two. So I'm almost just doing little triangle bits of yellow. And this turned green. I'm sure you can see it. We are gonna add green. We're gonna cover that up. So let's use the dark green first, and let's get the biggest stem. Now be careful of this part. You don't want too much water on your brush. So this, I'm gonna do this sunflower. I'm gonna do a stem straight down. So have it come up behind. And then fade it, then go down here. I'm going over that again, so you could tell there was some wet spots up there, and that's okay. And let's do a big leaf here. So we're kind of gonna fill in the negative space that doesn't work. So make a leaf. And you can use a mixture of the light and the dark green. And we're keeping this shape kind of loose and easy as well. And you can kind of go over into the vase at this point because you don't mind, there might be a little green in the water. So there's too much water on this and I'm gonna let it dry for a minute, and so move on. We'll come back and fix that later, and then just figure out where you want some extra green. This is your floral arrangement, so put whatever flowers you want in it and whatever colors. So I'm just lightly going behind some of these colors. And you do need a small brush for this part because you don't want your brush to hold too much water. And I'm going to do the light green over this dark green. Not over it, just kind of an extra line beside it. And let's bring some more green down through here. We're just doing little bits, light green. So wherever you have green up here, we're gonna have it go into the water. And in a minute, we're gonna use more blue, so I'm gonna fade a lot of that. So it's not gonna look like tons of stripes down here, but I'm just trying to get some of the color. So I'm adding dark now to some of these. So there's gonna be a dark right in the middle, right here. And same here. Maybe not all the way dark. Let's just add a little bit. Just on one edge. Okay, so let's use just water. Get a little water in your brush. Make sure there's not too much water. Make sure your water's clean too. So if you need to switch to a cleaner cup, do that. And I want to blur some of these. So I don't want it to look like too many green stripes in the water. And I'm actually gonna let the water kind of just do its own thing down here. So I'm just putting water on top of some of these marks that it made and see what happens. So let's just dab water on top, let it sit there. You might not need to do much else, or you might need to move it around because it might just look natural right away. So this is really dark. I'm going to bring it down and fade it a little bit. And then I want to add a little more blue. So let's switch to the bigger brush. Add more of the light blue. And it's okay. You want these colors to blend together. So this is kind of wet, and that's okay. So we're letting the flowers dry for a little bit, and so this is a perfect time to work down here. So I'm going back and forth because I want the purple and the blue to kind of go into each other. So and this is just water, so I'm just moving that up. Okay, actually that might be a good pausing point for the water. Now let's go back up into these flowers. This one especially needs something. So now that we let it dry and it's not so green, take this small brush, make sure there's not too much water on it, and let's get some red. Let's start adding some dots just to give it some extra texture and layers. So I'm gonna add some dots in the middle. And maybe I'll do the same over here, right in here. There's already dots on this one. I'm gonna add a few more. I'm gonna use different colors too. So I don't want too many dots. I'm gonna use a lighter, like an orange, and do the same thing. So maybe the light orange just around it so it tones some of those red ones down. And they'll blend together and create a new color. Especially right here, you definitely need the orange around. There was just too much red. And maybe another orange flower. Figure out if you want more orange anywhere. We've got a lot of little spaces we could fill. So we can either make the flowers bigger, or we could add a flower kind of peeking through behind the others. So let's just add some orange here. Because there's probably more flowers on the back side. And then maybe one right here. Let's think, do you want anything here? Maybe purple, a light purple. Make sure these parts that you're a little uncertain about, make sure it's light to start. So this is very light purple. So there was going to be a purple flower anyway, so we'll just make it look bigger than it was. All right, now, do you want these to be bigger? Because this flower could definitely be bigger. So I would pick it up to show you at this point, but I need that to dry first. But you guys are probably at a point where you need to take a pause and really think about what you want to do next. I want that to be a little bigger. There we go. I think that looks better. So let that dry. Actually, while we have yellow, let's mix some yellow into this green, brighten some of it up. So I'm going to add a little yellow right here on this edge. And if it's too much, then I'm going to blend it There we go. And then just a tiny bit. Make sure there's not much water on this part. You don't want this to ruin your flowers. Once you're towards the end, you've done so many layers to your watercolor, you really need to be more careful. And then we've got a little yellow. Let's bring it into the water just a little bit. Not much. And if you wanted to even do a shadow, you could bring your purple down and maybe do a little shadow underneath. It's up to you. It can just be a hint of color. That will also cover up some of your marks. And then I'm going to do a little bit more purple on the edge here. Not much. Okay. Okay, let's look at this up close. All right, so now take a look at it. Do you like the colors? Do you think it looks balanced? If you want to add anything else, if there's, say you think that it needs some dark colors, you can definitely pull in some like dark purple, or you can do darker greens and bring in some more foliage behind a few of the flowers. This is where you need to really decide on what you think it looks like. So it is a little different because it is soft. It's a little abstract. It's just kind of impressionistic, where they're flowers, but you don't really know what kind of flowers they are. Play with the shadow. You may not like a shadow, so this one doesn't have a shadow. If you wanted to bring more color, you can bring more color in the background, and you can just make it subtle. This is a good one to just play and just figure out. I want you to really think about composition and how you're balancing shapes and colors. So if there's something really big here, like this flower, and you think that that's really big and say the other ones were too small, then you need to fill in the space. And I'm going to show you the one that I did that I hated, just so you can see that it's okay. Sometimes you need to start over. So I started going this route, and look how big that one is. That immediately I was like, okay, this is just not working out. I was hating it. So I thought it'd be easier to start over. So I started with this one, and I did this, and then I was trying to balance it out, and it just wasn't feeling right. And I want to give you guys permission. Like, yes, it's great to continue working on things to figure out, it's good to work on things and try to make yourself like it. But sometimes if you're really frustrated and it's not working, seriously, just start over. It's probably quicker once you know the process, and then you can figure out if it's just not balanced, then maybe it's not worth fixing. I really don't think this one, I would have had to make this go off the page, I think. I would have probably started doing flowers out and then had some of them go off the page, but I just wasn't liking any of it. I didn't like how my stem was coming over here. Oh, it's awful. I'm throwing that in the trash for sure. But I kind of like these. I think these are sweet. And they should, they're good to get you ready for spring or for May Day. You can hang these on your door for those of you that live in a facility. Anyways, enjoy. And this would be good practice to do that water. It's definitely different. So, make sure to draw your lines and then blur them. Make it look like reflection, and like all these colors are kind of glistening in the water down there. Anyways, I will see you next week. I appreciate you. Bye.